When I was 11 years old, my mother handed me 2 crumpled dollar bills, kissed my forehead, and left for a month-long vacation in Spain. What she didn't know was that I had a camera, a notebook, and enough anger to document everything. By the time she came home with her suitcase full of souvenirs, I had enough evidence to change both our lives forever. My name is Sarah Taylor, and this is the story of how I learned that sometimes the people who are supposed to protect you are the ones you need protection from. It started on a Tuesday morning in late June. I remember the date because it was the first day of summer break, and I'd been excited about sleeping in and watching cartoons. Instead, I woke up to the sound of my mother dragging her massive pink suitcase down the hallway. I stumbled out of my bedroom, rubbing sleep from my eyes. "Mom? What's going on?" She was dressed in her newest outfit, white linen pants and a flowy blue top I'd seen her order online a few weeks earlier. Her makeup was perfect, her hair freshly highlighted. She looked like she was going somewhere important. "Oh, sweetie, you're awake." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I have some exciting news. Remember how I've been working so hard? Well, I'm taking a little vacation. I deserve it, don't you think?" My stomach dropped. "A vacation? Where?" "Spain." She said it like it was the most natural thing in the world. "Barcelona, Madrid, maybe some beach towns. I've always wanted to see Europe, and Jenna from work found these amazing deals. We're leaving this morning." "We?" I repeated. "Wait, am I going?" My mother laughed, this sharp, brittle sound that made me flinch. "Oh, Sarah, don't be silly. This is a grown-up trip. Besides, you're so independent now. You'll be fine here. Alone." My voice came out smaller than I intended. "For how long?" "Just a month. Maybe 5 weeks if we extend it." She was checking her phone now, distracted. "Your father's supposed to send child support this week, so there should be money in the account. You know where everything is." "A month. 5 weeks." The words didn't make sense in my brain. "Mom, I can't. I'm 11. I can't stay alone for a month." She stopped scrolling and looked at me, really looked at me, and for a second I thought she might change her mind. Instead, she reached into her purse and pulled out $2 bills. They were wrinkled and looked like they'd been at the bottom of her bag for weeks. "Here," she said, pressing them into my hand. "For emergencies. And there's food in the kitchen. You're smart, Sarah. You'll figure it out. This is a good opportunity for you to learn responsibility." I stared at the $2. $2. "Mom, this isn't enough to. I have to go. The taxi's coming any minute." She kissed my forehead quickly, her perfume overwhelming. "Be good. Don't answer the door for strangers. I'll try to send some pictures." "Try." I grabbed her arm. "Mom, please. I can stay with Grandma or Aunt Lisa or—" "Your grandmother is on her cruise, and Lisa made it very clear she doesn't want to deal with you after last Christmas." Her voice had gone cold. "You're old enough to handle this. Stop being so dramatic." The taxi honked outside. My mother grabbed her suitcase and was out the door before I could say another word. I stood in the hallway in my pajamas, holding $2 bills, and watched through the window as she loaded her luggage into the trunk. She didn't look back. Not once. The taxi pulled away, and I was alone. The first day, I told myself it would be okay. I was 11, almost 12. Plenty of kids stayed home alone for a few hours. This was just longer. I went to the kitchen to assess the situation. The refrigerator held a half-empty carton of milk that smelled questionable, 3 eggs, a wilted head of lettuce, and some condiments. The freezer had a bag of frozen peas and 2 freezer-burned chicken breasts that looked like they'd been there since last year. The pantry was worse. A box of stale crackers, a can of soup, a half-empty jar of peanut butter, and some pasta with no sauce. That was it. I did the math in my head. 1 month. 30 days. This wasn't enough food for a week. My hands started shaking. I sat down at the kitchen table and forced myself to breathe. Mom said Dad's child support was coming. Maybe there was money in the account. Maybe I could go to the store. I found my mother's old checkbook in the junk drawer. She never balanced it, but there were usually some notes scribbled in the margins. The last entry was from 3 weeks ago. The balance, $14.37. $14. For a month. I felt something cold settle in my chest. This wasn't an accident. My mother had known. She'd known there was no food, no money, no plan. And she'd left anyway. That's when I stopped crying and started thinking. I'd gotten a tablet for my birthday in March, a cheap one, but it had a camera. I'd been using it to make silly videos with my friends. Now, I opened it up and started recording. June 21st, I said to the camera, my voice steadier than I felt. First day. Mom left this morning for Spain. She gave me $2 and said she'd be gone for a month, maybe more. This is what she left me. I panned the camera across the kitchen, opening the refrigerator, showing the nearly empty shelves. Then the pantry. Then I held up the $2 bills. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this, but I'm going to figure it out, and I'm going to remember everything. I saved the video with the date and started a notebook. I wrote down everything, what time she left, what she said, what was in the house. I don't know why I did it. Some instinct told me I needed proof, that if I was going to survive this, I needed evidence. Day 2 was when the hunger started. I made 1 egg for breakfast, scrambling it with a tiny bit of milk. For lunch, I had crackers with peanut butter, just enough to stop my stomach from cramping. For dinner, I boiled half the pasta with no sauce, just salt. My mother sent 1 text, a photo of her and Jenna by a pool, cocktails in hand, both of them laughing. The caption, Barcelona is amazing. Smiling face with heart eyes. I stared at that photo for a long time. Then I took a screenshot and saved it to my evidence folder. By day 4, I was rationing everything down to the calorie. I knew I had maybe 10 days of food if I was careful. After that, I didn't know. I tried calling my mother. It went to voicemail. I tried again. Voicemail. I sent texts. Mom, I need help. Mom, there's no food. Mom, please call me. She responded once, stop being dramatic. You're fine. I'm on vacation. I sat on the kitchen floor and let myself cry for exactly 5 minutes. Then I stopped, washed my face, and opened my notebook. If my mother wasn't going to help me, I'd have to help myself. Day 6. The eggs were gone. The milk had spoiled. I'd eaten the last of the crackers. All that was left was the can of soup, the peanut butter, and the pasta. I went outside to check the mail, hoping maybe Dad's check had arrived. Instead, there was a disconnect notice for the electricity and a final notice for the water bill. My mother hadn't paid the utilities. I sat on the front steps, staring at those notices, and something inside me cracked open. Not sadness anymore. Anger. Pure, burning anger. I took photos of the notices, added them to the folder, wrote everything down in the notebook. Then I made a decision. Day 7. I hadn't eaten anything since yesterday afternoon. My stomach felt like it was eating itself. I was dizzy when I stood up, and my hands trembled constantly. I knew I couldn't keep going like this. Our neighbor, Mrs. Chen, was outside watering her garden. She was an older woman, maybe 70, who'd lived next door since before I was born. My mother didn't like her, said she was nosy and judgmental. I walked over slowly, trying not to look as desperate as I felt. Hi, Mrs. Chen. She looked up, squinting in the sunlight. Then her expression changed. Sarah? My goodness, honey, are you all right? You look pale. I'm okay, I lied. I was just wondering, do you have any odd jobs I could do? For money. I'm trying to save up for something. It wasn't entirely a lie. Mrs. Chen set down her watering can and came closer. She studied my face with these sharp, intelligent eyes. Where's your mother, dear? She's out, running errands. At 7 in the morning? I hesitated too long. Mrs. Chen's expression shifted from concern to something harder. Sarah, she said gently, when's the last time you ate? My throat closed up. I couldn't answer. Come inside, she said firmly. Right now. Mrs. Chen made me eggs, toast, orange juice, and fruit. I tried to eat slowly, but I was so hungry I nearly inhaled everything. She watched me with this expression I couldn't quite read, sadness mixed with anger. Now, she said once I'd finished, tell me the truth. Where is your mother? And I did. Everything came pouring out. The vacation, the $2, the empty kitchen, the disconnect notices, the texts she wouldn't answer. I showed her my tablet, the videos, the photos, the notebook. Mrs. Chen's face went through about 6 different emotions in 30 seconds. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Sarah, she finally said, what your mother did, what she's doing, this isn't okay. This is neglect. Do you understand that? I nodded, tears streaming down my face. I want to help you, but we need to do this the right way. We need to call someone who can make sure you're safe and that this doesn't happen again. Who? I whispered. Child Protective Services. The words hung in the air like a bomb. The caseworker's name was Ms. Rodriguez. She arrived within 2 hours of Mrs. Chen's call, a professional-looking woman in her 40s with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. She interviewed me in Mrs. Chen's living room. I showed her everything, the videos, the photos, the notebook, the texts from my mother, the disconnect notices. I told her about the $2, the empty kitchen, the 5 weeks my mother planned to be gone. Ms. Rodriguez's expression remained neutral throughout, but I saw her jaw tighten when I showed her the photo of my mother by the pool. Sarah, she said when I finished, you did exactly the right thing by documenting all of this. What you've shown me is very serious. Your mother left you without adequate food, money, or supervision. That's criminal neglect. Criminal. The word made it real. What happens now? I asked. Now, we make sure you're safe. You'll stay with Mrs. Chen temporarily. She's agreed to be an emergency placement. I'm going to open an investigation. And when your mother returns, she's going to have to answer for what she's done. She's going to be so angry, I whispered. Ms. Rodriguez leaned forward. Sarah, listen to me carefully. You are not responsible for your mother's choices or her anger. You are a child. She is the adult. She had a responsibility to care for you, and she failed. That is on her, not you. Something loosened in my chest. Someone believed me. Someone was on my side. The next 3 weeks were strange. I lived with Mrs. Chen, who fed me regular meals, helped me catch up on sleep, and treated me with a kindness I'd forgotten existed. Ms. Rodriguez visited twice a week, documenting everything, building her case. My mother's texts became less frequent. A photo from Madrid. A selfie in front of the Sagrada Familia. A message. Having the time of my life. Hope you're being good. I didn't respond. Mrs. Chen had helped me compose one message, sent through Ms. Rodriguez's official number. This is Child Protective Services. We are investigating a report of child neglect. Please contact us immediately upon your return to the United States. My mother didn't respond to that either. 5 weeks and 2 days after she left, my mother came home. Mrs. Chen and I were sitting in her living room when we saw the taxi pull up. My mother got out, tanned and relaxed, laughing at something Jenna said as they unloaded luggage. My heart was pounding so hard I thought I might throw up. "It's going to be okay," Mrs. Chen said, squeezing my hand. "Ms. Rodriguez will be here in 10 minutes. Just stay calm." We watched as my mother wheeled her suitcase up to our front door. She tried her key. The locks had been changed, standard procedure during an investigation. She looked confused, then annoyed. She knocked. No answer. That's when she pulled out her phone and called me. I watched it ring on the table in front of me. I didn't pick up. She called again. And again. Then she looked around and spotted Mrs. Chen's house. Her eyes narrowed, and she started walking toward us. "Here we go," Mrs. Chen murmured. My mother pounded on the door. "Sarah! Sarah, I know you're in there. What the hell is going on?" Mrs. Chen opened the door, positioning herself in the doorway. "Ms. Taylor, welcome home. Where's my daughter?" My mother's voice was sharp. "Why isn't she at home? Why are the locks changed?" "Your daughter is safe. Child Protective Services has been notified of your return. A caseworker is on her way." My mother's face went white, then red. "What? CPS? What are you talking about? You left an 11-year-old child alone for 5 weeks with $2 and no food. That's criminal neglect." "That's ridiculous. I left her with money. Sarah." She tried to push past Mrs. Chen. "Sarah, get out here right now." I stood up, my legs shaking. Mrs. Chen stepped aside, and I walked to the door. My mother's expression cycled through relief, anger, confusion. "Sarah, what is she talking about? Tell her you were fine. Tell her I left you with everything you needed." I looked at my mother, really looked at her. Her skin was golden from the Spanish sun. Her hair was perfectly styled. She was wearing new earrings I'd never seen before. She looked happy, rested, beautiful. "You left me with $2, I said quietly. "There was almost no food in the house. You didn't pay the utility bills. I nearly lost power and water. I documented everything." "Documented what?" She laughed, but it sounded nervous. "Sarah, don't be dramatic. You had food. You had. I have videos, Mom. Photos. A notebook with every single day written down. I have your texts. I have the disconnect notices. I have everything." Her face changed. "You were spying on me? I was surviving." A car pulled up, Ms. Rodriguez, right on time. The confrontation that followed was brutal. Ms. Rodriguez brought my mother into Mrs. Chen's living room and laid out everything. The videos played on her laptop. My voice, thin and scared, showing the empty refrigerator. The photos of the $2. The disconnect notices. The texts where my mother called me dramatic. "This is insane," my mother kept saying. "This is a misunderstanding. I thought she had everything she needed. I thought." "You thought wrong," Ms. Rodriguez said coldly. "And your daughter nearly starved because of it." "Starved? She looks fine." "Because Mrs. Chen fed her when she came to her door, malnourished and desperate, after a week alone." My mother looked at me like I'd betrayed her. "How could you do this? I'm your mother. I gave birth to you. I've sacrificed everything for you, and this is how you repay me." Something snapped inside me. "You sacrificed nothing." The words came out louder than I intended. "You left me here to starve while you drank by a pool in Spain. You spent money on vacation while I had nothing. You ignored my calls, my texts, my begging for help. And you want to talk about sacrifice? I deserved that vacation. I work hard, You're supposed to take care of me. I was shouting now, tears streaming down my face. You're supposed to make sure I eat. You're supposed to keep me safe. But you don't care. You've never cared. You only care about yourself. The room went silent. My mother's mouth opened and closed. For once, she had nothing to say. Ms. Rodriguez closed her laptop. Ms. Taylor, I'm issuing an emergency protective order. Sarah will remain in temporary placement with Mrs. Chen. You'll have supervised visits only, pending the outcome of our investigation and court hearing. You're also being referred to the district attorney's office for possible criminal charges. Criminal charges? My mother's voice cracked. For what? Child endangerment, neglect, abandonment. My mother looked at me one more time. I saw something in her eyes. Fear, maybe, or the first real understanding of what she'd done. Sarah, she whispered. I'm sorry. I didn't mean. Yes, you did, I said. You meant all of it. But now there are consequences. The court hearing happened 6 weeks later. I sat in the judge's chambers, family court, not a regular courtroom, with Ms. Rodriguez on one side and a lawyer the state had provided on the other. My mother sat across from us with her own attorney, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. The judge was a black woman in her 60s with gray hair and reading glasses. She'd reviewed all the evidence, every video, every photo, every page of my notebook. She looked at my mother over those glasses. Ms. Taylor, I've seen a lot of cases in my career, but rarely have I seen such clear-cut documentation of parental neglect. Your daughter was 11 years old. You left her alone for 5 weeks with $2 and minimal food. You ignored her calls for help. You prioritized your vacation over her basic needs. Your Honor, I made a mistake. I thought. You didn't think. That's the problem. The judge's voice was steel. You have a legal and moral obligation to care for your child. You failed spectacularly. She turned to me. Sarah, you showed remarkable courage and intelligence. The evidence you gathered likely saved your life and certainly saved this case. I want you to know that none of this is your fault. I nodded, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. The judge laid out her ruling. My mother would retain custody, but with conditions. Mandatory parenting classes. Regular home inspections by CPS. Supervised visits for 3 months, then gradual reintegration. Therapy for both of us. And if she violated any terms, I would be removed permanently. You get 1 chance, the judge told my mother. 1. If you fail Sarah again, you will lose her. Do you understand? Yes, Your Honor, my mother whispered. Good. Because that little girl deserves a mother who puts her first. Be that mother, or lose the right to call yourself one. The months that followed were hard. My mother and I attended therapy, separately at first, then together. She had to face what she'd done, really face it, without excuses or deflection. It turned out she'd spent over $3,000 on that vacation, money she'd been saving for my dad's child support, money that was supposed to be for me. She'd been so focused on her own wants, her own escape, that she'd convinced herself I'd be fine. I was angry, she admitted in one session. Angry at your father for leaving, angry at my life, angry at feeling trapped. And I took it out on you by choosing myself over you. That was unforgivable. It was the first time she'd ever really apologized. Did it fix everything? No. Trust doesn't rebuild overnight. But it was a start. I lived with Mrs. Chen for 4 months total. She became like the grandmother I never had, patient, loving, consistent. When I finally moved back home, I cried saying goodbye, even though she only lived next door. My mother was different when I came back. The house was stocked with food. The bills were paid. She'd gotten a better job and made a budget. She actually asked about my day and listened to the answers. It wasn't perfect. We still fought. She still made mistakes. But the big difference was that now, when I said, I need help, or that's not okay, she listened. And I kept my notebook. I kept my videos. Not because I wanted to use them against her, but because they reminded me of something important. I had power. I had a voice. And I was never going to let anyone silence it again. 3 years later, I'm 14 now. My mother and I have a relationship that's complicated but real. She still goes to therapy. I still go to therapy. We have family sessions once a month. She's never taken another vacation without me. She's never left me without money or food. She's trying, genuinely trying, to be the mother she should have been all along. Ms. Rodriguez checks in every few months. Mrs. Chen is still next door, still my safe person when things get hard. And sometimes, when my mother and I have a good day, when we laugh over dinner or watch a movie together, I think about that scared 11-year-old girl holding $2 bills and wonder how she survived. Then I remember, I survived because I refused to be silent, because I documented the truth, because I asked for help, because I believed I deserved better. And I did. People ask me sometimes if I regret what I did, calling CPS, getting my mother in trouble, creating all that chaos. I don't. Because here's what I learned. Sometimes the people who are supposed to love you will hurt you. Sometimes they'll fail you in ways you never imagined possible. And when that happens, you have two choices. You can stay silent, minimize it, pretend it's normal. You can protect their reputation at the expense of your safety. Or you can tell the truth. You can gather evidence. You can ask for help. You can hold them accountable. The second option is terrifying. It feels like betrayal. It feels like you're destroying your family. But you're not. They destroyed it when they chose to hurt you. You're just refusing to keep their secrets. My mother left me with $2 at age 11 to vacation in Europe. When she came back, everything changed, because I'd changed. I'd learned my worth. I'd learned that I deserved better. I'd learned that truth, no matter how painful, is always more powerful than silence. And that lesson saved my life. If you're reading this and you're in a situation like I was, if someone who's supposed to care for you is hurting you or neglecting you or making you feel like your needs don't matter, please hear me. You deserve better. You deserve safety. You deserve food and shelter and love. Document everything. Tell someone you trust. Call a hotline. Ask for help. It's not dramatic. It's not betrayal. It's survival. And you are worth saving. My name is Sarah Taylor, and this is how I learned that the truth, no matter how scary, will always set you free.